That's okay, Zoe. We still see you. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hope everyone had a good weekend. I had a mostly good weekend. I had a stressful day yesterday, but today has been nice and productive. I'm happy to say that the project that I was working on, that I have a deadline for today, self-imposed deadline. I got the next step done, and so now I go to what I hope is the final step. There may still be some tweaking with it, but then I can send it in and we'll go on to the next step. So, hope everyone had a good weekend. MS, nice to see you there. I had a good time hanging out in your stream on Saturday. Didn't talk much because I was writing, but I did for a little bit, and I had fun watching you sing, what was it? Be Our Guest. That was hilarious. So those of you who don't already know, MS is a streamer. He does his own streams on Tuesdays, but Saturday it's community stream. And normally he plays a cooking game with some of his viewers, but he was playing something a little bit different. So he was playing by himself, but then later he did the Twitch things. And that's always hilarious. So okay, so today's Monday. We will be having, as the title says, we'll be having some talk later about PTSD and specifically values. I have a drill that I'm going to put my co-host through, and I'll have the URL that I'll share in chat so you can do it along with us. Anybody can do it. It's a values thing to help you make sure that you know what's important to you. So when you're making decisions, you can look at that values list and go, yeah, this decision falls in line with these things, or this decision doesn't. And I had to do this. I didn't have to. My wife suggested I do it back in 2016 when I was having second thoughts about the decision I was making to separate. And after doing the drill, it was a torture. It took a long time. After doing the drill, I came to the conclusion that I indeed was making the right decision. Doesn't mean it was the easiest decision. It's been very difficult. The stress has continued to this very day. But in the long run, Nautilus Knots, welcome in. Thank you for that, host. Nice to see you. I am proud to say that I can actually do this now, because Knots is back in streaming. And let's see. Sunless Sea, that's what you finished with. I know you've been playing No Man's Sky. I got it, but then I just decided I'm not going to really have time to play it for a while, and I had better use for that money, so I returned it. What? I've been idle too long. No, go back. So maybe in the future I'll be able to squeeze some time in, but I've got some other things that I need to focus on. If I was currently playing it, that would be different, but I haven't started playing it. I'm interested in it. I've been interested in it for a while, especially since they've improved on it. But yeah, after actually talking with you the other day about it with the whole inventory system, I frankly just don't want to deal with it. So maybe if there's a modded version where I can get on, Workshop on Steam, where I can add some kind of inventory management mod that will make that easier, maybe in the future. But there were other things that I needed to push that money toward. Well, I think the intent was to get the game out there and have the players start playing it and then develop it further. So, all right. Turn that off. I don't know why that thing keeps coming on. I like having it there because it's got a use, but it really is starting to bug me how it just keeps coming on whenever I change scenes. I need to fix something real quick, because I just noticed that my game is not stretched to the screen. There we go. What are we building? That's a very good question, Knots. Let me see if you can figure it out. Let me back up a little. I mean, it's in the title, but if you haven't looked at the title, does that look a little familiar? It's multiplayer. It's a realm that Cellist Mike has. It's mostly for people from the Pixel Sharks to play, plus some of his family members. He has a couple of worlds that we've been doing some larger work on, and one of them. Close. It's the Enterprise D. This is the saucer section. We started this back in 2017 and just things happened. So we went away from it. Now we're coming back to it. We figured this is the perfect thing to play while we're talking, because it doesn't really require much, thought from us, because we're just building them. Yeah, you like reading titles? Yeah, titles are great if you read them. I am the Don. Welcome in. I'm the Don. I cannot remember if you're an actual streamer. If you say you are, then I'll shout you out. But if you don't, then I won't. So this is as far as we made it. The white lines that you see were simply for counting. They will go away once we're done. The orange line that you see right there, that's the phaser array on the Enterprise D, and that's roughly where the bridge is. Now the plan right now is to build some rooms in here based on the space. We know we're going to build 10 forward in the bridge. Based on the amount of space in here that we need, we may build more, but they aren't going to be... we'll try to put the bridge up there near the top, and we'll try to put 10 forward, forward. But if we need to move them out a little so we have the space to build them, then that's what we're going to do. We'd rather have this build them in actual size then. And of course the engine array is going to be the next thing. That will be over here. Alright, where are those boxes? Where are the command boxes? Oh, there they are. I'm going to go change it today. You only watch amazing streamers. Does that mean I'm an amazing streamer, or is that judgment still out? Is that determination still out? Is the jury still out on that one? Mm-hmm. Go down. Set to morning. Otherwise you wouldn't be here? Well, I appreciate it, and thank you, Knots. I know that you use me to go to sleep, so take that as you will. What's happening here? And yes, I am writing books. Thank you, Bot. I actually spent the day writing books. Last time he was playing Endless Sea. 24/7 ASMR. Well, I try to keep it nice and calm in here. Especially when we're having to talk, because it can be a little serious. Eventually Cellist Mike's going to join me, but he had to do a quick bio run before we started. Hey, Clumsy Jeff, welcome in. We are building, if you look at the title, it'll tell you, but we're building the Enterprise D. Right now we're just building the shell of the saucer section, and later we're going to put a couple rooms inside, but we're not going for broke on the rooms on the inside. Oop. We're going to make sure we put the bridge and 10 forward. So, and it has been a long time since we worked on this, almost 2 years. So there may be some going forward and going back and going forward and going back, but for now, we're just doing it. And honestly, I don't remember why he wanted to do this. This was his idea. We're going to build ships, multiple ships, facing off against each other. Now, in one of his worlds that we were playing with as a part of our Pixel Sharks team, one of our teammates built a very accurate replica of Winterfell, And I decided to be funny, and I started building a Death Star right over top of it with the beam, the Death Star's beam shooting down at Winterfell, and that's how you get up to it. Because once it's done, we're taking the ladder away that goes up into it, and we needed another way for people to get up there, so we'll have... No, see, Nautilus Knots, the Death Star, I was building in survival. It was rough. Oh man, it was rough. This one, we just wanted to have fun building. We didn't want to worry about it. We didn't want to have to go find all the resources. But the one in the Death Star was very much being built on survival mode. I died so many times working on that thing before we managed to get the thing, because getting out along the edge to get the circle, it was such a precarious... I was always so nervous. My armpits itch when I get really nervous, and I was constantly itching when I was building that thing. It was so... I very much feel that I feel like I'm going to fall terror when I play games that have that stuff in it. So yeah, that was fun. At the end, we started using... to make it easier for me to build the bottom half, we switched it to... creative mode just to help me work on it, but most of the time we still kept it in survival. That world we explored and played in survival mode, but I actually stopped playing that world because everybody started building things way too far out and it was impossible to find everything. So he started over with a world where everybody had to give him the coordinates of where he was building stuff so he could set teleportation stuff to them. And yeah, it was brutal. It was very brutal. The stuff was so spread out in that world, we had to build a railway through the Nether to shorten our time. We had railways that were going across the world to get to the things, but they took so long to traverse that to make it easier, we built... One of our teammates he went into the Nether and figured out where they needed to be and had exits created along this double railway. They all met in the middle. There was one entrance in the middle and then two on either end, and that basically connected the three major places that needed to be connected. My daughter is very up to date on the updates. She could tell you a lot. I think her favorite thing currently is the pandas and the dolphins. Plus, they've added bamboo in and all kinds of things. She plays mostly on the iPad. I've tried to get her into playing on the PC so I could have her stream it a little, and she just doesn't like it. So I have the ability to stream her from the iPad, but she has been very busy lately. And we're having some difficulties with behavior, so we're limiting her screen time. Maybe. If my daughter were here, she could tell you. I don't keep up with the Minecraft news. The only reason I played this is because it's something that the Pixel Shards could do together and something I could do with Zoe. But again, she likes the iPad version and I can't stand playing this on iPad. So I have the Windows 10 version just so I can play with her. I want nothing to do with it otherwise. Oh, and on that thing that the bot's posting right there, I want to explain something, because someone asked me this the other day. Because some people subscribe to the channel, some people subscribe through Patreon. Patreon is to support all of my creative things involving writing. Now, some things that I do video game-wise and streaming-wise are shared there, but most of it's just the writing stuff. So someone, I think, I can't remember who it was that asked. They were asking that the other day, and I was occupied with something, so I couldn't answer then. So there's the answer. Patreon is for people that basically want to support me as an author. Because I still got them bills. The project I'm finishing today it has a payday attached to it, so I'm very excited to get that done. Did she get tired of playing on someone else's server? Or what? That's very broad right there. You have to understand, in most circumstances, I dislike playing multiplayer games. Especially with random people. Multiplayer games can be hard to stream for one thing because you're only getting one side of it. Like Civ 6. It's horrible streaming Civ 6 multiplayer because you really only see one person, and if their turn goes quickly and everyone else's turn takes a while, it's really boring to watch. But I just don't like dealing with random people. We had a Terraria world that we were playing late last year. Yeah, it was while I was gone. And we let a viewer join, and he just kept bringing things in and unlocking bosses, and we were constantly defending what we were building from the things he was unlocking, and we eventually had to stop it because we were spending all of our time just fighting things off, and we weren't actually building anything anymore. So eventually also I just got tired of Terraria's inventory system. That will turn me off to it eventually. Yeah, I don't like playing with random people. Friends is one thing because you can have a mutual goal and everything, and because you're friends, you know each other's play styles, so you know what one person likes to do versus another. I'm not really sure how I managed to do World of Warcraft for as long as I did. Probably because I ended up playing it mostly single player, and the only time I did multiplayer stuff was with people I knew or friends that I made inside the game. Oh, hold on. We have a Charles Mike. Say hello, Charles Mike. Oh boy, can we not hear you? Tisk Discord, what are you doing?
Hello.
Oh, there you are. You tricked me. Well, okay, so with World of Warcraft, I liked the story. I liked the lore, I liked the world, I liked all that side of it. I disliked very much anything related to PvP. It was just frantic, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't get any kind of satisfaction from it. The only things that would drive me into PvP were the holiday events, and then the instant I got what I needed, I ran screaming and didn't go back until the next year. And even then, I put that stuff off to the very end. The dungeons and stuff, obviously, those were a little bit more difficult to manage. So I would end up not doing a lot of them until I was over level. When they introduced the dungeon finder, it got a little bit... then I was definitely having to deal with the randomness. Tell us Mike can remember. We did a lot of that. Although now he's not talking again. So actually, I honestly don't know if he can hear me. Because he was talking, you all heard him say hello, and then he just vanished.
Oh, I'm here. You're just cutting out really badly.
Let me see. Discord.
Yeah.
Discord, what is your problem?
Which is funny because the Nitro Boost is supposed to give better audio. It just doesn't give better connection.
Here, we'll see if that goes any better. I turned the sensitivity down. I made it so that you'll hear me sooner. So is that better?
Oh. Hopefully.
Yeah, random things with your friends is fun, but if you're in there to accomplish a goal, and this was the part that I especially hated about the holiday events in PvP in that game. Well, everybody knew what you were there for, and they would go out of their way to make it so that you couldn't accomplish it because, quote unquote, you were ruining their experience by being there doing what you were doing. And none of us wanted to be there any more than they wanted us to be there, so you'd think they would have just helped us and then so we could leave and be done with it, but nope. Humans are jerks. And
if your way to be PvP, then it's a null. It's a moot point.
Yeah. Knots, enjoy your lurk. As always, thanks for your support. We do appreciate it. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate that you spend some of it here with us. So, tell us, Mike, how was your weekend?
I didn't sleep very well.
Yeah, I remember. I remember you saying that one time you were up till like 8 o'clock in the morning, lying in bed.
Absolutely aggravating.
It's extremely aggravating. See, I don't have the problem of just lying awake. I will fall asleep, but then I won't stay asleep.
Huh.
Doesn't matter what I do. I will not stay asleep. I will wake up, and it's rough. I mean, there's nothing I did. If it's not dreams, it's my body. So.
Oh, we have black concrete down here. I was trying to figure out why I couldn't make it look light.
Yeah, I was wondering why that's down there.
Probably because we were trying to make it look like space.
Yeah, that's probably it. Okay, so I did the part that was easy. I finished filling in that layer. Okay. So now what I need to do is, honestly, I need to go back into, I need to find that site that I had. So while I do that, now you finish telling us about your day.
Yeah, so it was, let's see. Well, the night before last, it was kind of just all on me. I stayed up playing WoW Classic for too long. But before that, oh my word, I was awake till like 6 or 7 in the morning. Could not sleep for the life of me, and that was just laying in bed,
So why did you stay laying so long?
I had just the regular issues that I have with sleep.
No, I know. Why did you stay in bed? Why didn't you just give up and get up?
Sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I won't. And in this case, I just decided that I needed to keep trying because I really wanted to sleep. I was so tired. Oh, and also I was too tired to actually get up and do anything.
Ah.
You know, it was like by all rights, I should have been asleep. There was just, I couldn't function.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really have an option to get up and do anything, so I was too tired to do anything.
Okay, so I found the map that we were using. Okay. Like the plans. I used to have it pictured up on there. I'll put that up next time. Okay. I just gotta find that. There it is. The ellipse generator.
Yeah.
It's going to take a moment because I have to remember how to do this. As I said, it's been 2 years. Okay, so I need to figure out the. Okay, I need to figure.
It's been long enough that I kind of want to do just random little addition stuff because I don't feel comfortable.
Building onto the same thing we were building onto before.
Yeah, I know I'm going to screw up the patterns.
Well, one thing I need to figure out is, because now we're on to the next layer, I need to figure out the numbering.
Exactly.
And this is where these white blocks come in handy.
I think we did them. They're in rows of 10.
Yep.
Rows and columns of 10.
So there's center. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 71, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 75 on one side. Let's put this 75 here. Put them both at 75 for now. So I'm at least part way. I have a circle! Imagine that.
Well, I mean, a circle is technically an ellipse, but an ellipse isn't a circle.
But wait a minute. I think it needs to be...
Or is a circle not an ellipse by definition?
Sure.
I'm not sure whether an ellipse is a must be non-equidistant radius.
If only there was a way to look up random bits of information.
Right?
Anthropophagic. How are you doing? Welcome in. I managed to catch your entire stream last night. If you look at the title, Anthropophagic, you'll see what we're building. It's all in the title. Oh, Anthropophagic, thank you for that. I had a good time last night watching Anthropophagic not drop his... He's playing basically Rimsicle seats in RimWorld. So yes, this is the upper half of the Enterprise D saucer section. We're almost to, I finished that last layer, and now I'm figuring out that section right there where my crosshairs are pointed. I'm figuring out that layer, and I know that it's 75 from middle to here, so it's 150 across, and now I'm figuring out the side. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. I think we did make it 80, 81, 83, 85, 87, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. So 190 on the other side. It's massive.
But looking into it, it's large enough that we can put some rooms in there, but we can't do them to scale, or else you can't move around. Because as massive as this may look, it is tiny compared to a 2-scale model that your character can run around in.
Yeah. Hey, that happens. But to Anthropophagic, I've had my host appear and disappear multiple times for the thing that I've been working on. Jen, welcome in. Well, now that we have everybody, now we have a bunch of people in here, we should start on the topic.
The conversation?
The conversation. Now, Cellist Mike, I'm going to post a link in the chat. This is for you to get and hold on to. Don't start it yet. And for those of you in chat who want to take part, you can join along.
Is this
Jen?
going to be an assessment sort of thing?
Sort of. It's a values drill. So,
okay.
Thank you for that, Lurk MS. I hope they have your meds. I really hope they have your meds.
Oh, yeah. If you're waiting on meds.
Yeah, that's a bit rough. So, Jen, feel free to share it. We could always use a bit of laughter. We will never say no to laughter. So, what we're going to do today is... I'm hoping 3 asterisks is not what you wanted us to laugh at. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about values and how they can help you in your recovery. And the example that I gave at the beginning was that when I was facing the road to separation, there were several times where I wondered if I was on the right path. Yeah, I was wondering if I was on the right path. And as it got harder and more difficult, it also, that I questioned more and more. And so my wife sat me down and had me do this drill. Now mine was a card version. But there was no way I was going to print out all those cards because then you guys couldn't see.
Especially not when we have these, this magical digital representation tool.
Yes, exactly. So I asked my wife about the name of it again today, and I found this. I already tested it out. It works very well. The values that are in there are very, very similar to what they were in that test. Yes, and we are building the Enterprise D, Jen. We're just taking a moment to talk about the topic of the day. So, with that said.
Yeah, so this is a project we started 2 years ago, you said?
This project we were working, the last time we worked on it was in October of 2017. So we're a bit separated from it. Okay, so I don't have a camera feed for Cellist Mike, so we just have a picture of him. So those are the two of us.
Eventually.
Yeah, eventually. On the right, you'll see the values chart. And the reason why I wanted to go through this with Cellist Mike was 2 weeks ago, or maybe was it last week? I think it was 2 weeks ago. I was discussing the idea of your story, the events that happened to you, your whole life story, and if you could come up with 4 words, not a phrase, just 4 words to describe your life, what would those 4 words be? Something that would encapsulate it. And I commented on how that can change what my daughter would pick now would not, or what I would have picked at my daughter's age would be very different from what she would pick. And hers would be very different from what I would pick now, and I assume that hers would be very different when she gets to my age.
Yeah, because if you're looking at the whole life, you have to pick words that don't represent today necessarily.
I will explain in just a moment, Jen. I'm getting there. So then, and the idea came from a message that I heard where they were talking about the 4 words that you could put that could describe any story, and the words that I forget now what they were, but they were 4 words that can cover over everything, over every story. And I thought that they applied very well to the idea of recovery. And so then I decided, hey, this would be a good thing to do. Not only talk about on stream, I did, but also to talk about how your values can change. So that just like the words can change over time. So, Cellist Mike, I will do this on the screen. I'm going to match what Cellist Mike says. So on the screen, you can see what it's showing. So what the idea here, Cellist Mike, is you're going to take. You can either click on the things at the top to change through them. So the 3 squares at the top, you can do that. But what I found easier was just to go down here, so I could see all of them in the tiles below, and just pick. And you're supposed to start off by, I can't remember how many it says, because I already did this once. So let me see if I can find.
It feels like we're not in the same. It feels like we're not in the same map like we should be, because it's realms. But there's stuff I've done that isn't showing up in the stream. And then, like, you just clicked on, I think
it is a good picture.
And that never went in mine.
I didn't click that button. I saw you click it. I saw you join. Sorry, I'm looking at the game.
So weird. So
yeah, and I saw you messing around down there with the black thing. Yeah, there you are. I see you.
Alright, I just clicked morning, but
Yep.
in the stream it looks like yours is already morning. Do I just need to reload the picture?
No,
Stream?
mine was dark and now it just turned light.
I know, but the stream didn't reflect. What I was seeing on my screen as your stream didn't reflect that.
Yes, but my stream is currently not showing that.
Oh.
Let me see.
Okay.
It's,
No, I reloaded the screen.
okay. There you go. Okay, so... Oh yeah, that's right. The first step, there's no limit to how many you can pick. So go through and look at those, and as you want to click something, you just click the plus button, and as you want to pick something, just tell me, and I will click it too, so it'll go into the values.
And so now I go to the link that you gave?
Yes, that link, you can have that loaded up, and our viewers, if you want to do this along with us, you click that link up there. Don't just duplicate what Jealous Mike does. I'm doing it so we can see what he comes up with on stream. But you can pick the ones that matter to you. And in this first step, there is no limit. You can pick as many of these as you want. Just be warned that each phase of this requires you to pare it down. So I do recommend picking anything. Click on anything that's important to you in this first one, because the requirement, the drill will help you pare it down. So, Jealous Mike, looking at the tiles, what would you be?
Trying to find. I can't find the link.
It's in chat.
I know I can't find it. I can't see it.
Hold on. I'll post it again.
Oh, it's because I'm on a video. Jeez.
Yeah, you have to have chat open.
No wonder why it was looking so wrong.
This is Jealous Mike's first time on stream. Forgive him.
What? No, it's not. No, it's because I had pulled up your stream earlier, and Twitch defaulted me to the videos tab, and so even when I reloaded it after you went live, it's still.
We're all laughing at you. The minions have joined in. MS came, and so he brought them along. Okay, so let me know when you've got that up.
So now I'm there.
Okay, so do you see the tiles?
I do.
Okay,
Work,
so
adventure, autonomy. Are those the ones that you picked?
no, don't ignore that up there, because that's just kind of like a rotating thing. You can click on them to go forward or backward. Look below where it says save values continue, and then it says values available to select. You're going to see all of the tiles laid out there.
Okay.
And so then as you go, and it starts with A and it goes down to W.
Can you either relink, since I'm now in the actual chat room, not one of the video chat rooms, can you relink it for me?
Once more into the breach.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Okay.
So, as you pick one, let me move this up a little because I forget that, there we go. So on stream they can see them. And we'll start at the top. Just go through the list. Doesn't matter how important it is right now. If it's important to you, click it, and it will disappear and all the things will slide up. And I'm going to do the same thing as you do it.
Okay, but so I do have a question.
Of course you do.
So much is different now.
No, do it now. We're talking about now.
Okay.
This is not you. This is not you before. This is you now.
All right. Okay, my story now. Ugh.
Now, just because you can't do something as much as you want to, that doesn't mean it's not still important to you.
Yeah. Autonomy.
So autonomy, okay. And Jen, if you can't keep along with it now, that's fine. You can do it on your own later. You can just watch us, so you can see how it works.
If it's something that I don't like, but I understand that it's a massive part of my life, should I still pick it?
No, you only pick the things that are of value to you, not just because it's important. Important can be not because you know it's important. Like taking your medicine, you know is important.
Negative.
Yes.
I don't like.
Something important can be done, but do you? But even then, if you value it, its influence on you.
Yeah,
then so just think about it like that. Do you value what this word encapsulates? So far I've clicked autonomy.
Yeah, and as much as I struggle with it, I have not been able to lose the previous value I place on community. So even though it's so difficult for me now, I still, for better or for worse, I still put value on the concept of having community around me. So I have to pick that.
Yeah, you technically still do, because you hang out with me. You value that, don't you? You went and hung out with a friend for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Competence. That's huge.
Of course. Competence. So you clicked that?
Yeah.
Okay. I did say this would take just a bit of time.
That's okay. Yeah. Let's see. A lot of these used to be
add milk.
Important, just aren't anymore.
That's fine. We're not talking about the way you were then.
Nope. Diversity.
Diversity, okay.
Ecology and environment.
And anthropophagic, you're fine picking a bunch of them now. Pick as many as you want.
Yeah, we'll have to narrow them down as we go.
Yeah. On this first round, if you're confused about what a word means, read the extra. But if you understand what the word implies just by the single word, just focus on that. As you start paring it down later, you're going to start considering the words underneath each word more.
Education.
Okay.
Ethics.
Ethics.
Excitement.
Excitement, okay.
Fairness.
Fairness.
Flexibility.
Flexibility.
And freedom.
Freedom, got it.
Friendship.
Friendship.
Health.
Health.
Helping others.
Helping others.
Honesty. Independence.
Honesty, independence.
Integrity.
Integrity.
Loyalty.
It is, Jen, it is. I know some people who would pick some things on this list that I would never in my life dream of picking.
Yeah. Did you see loyalty?
Yes.
All right. Meaningful work. This kills me that it's important, but it's representative of how much it kills me.
Okay, but I offer this. I offer this as something to think about. Do you consider what you do with me on this stream important?
Yeah.
Is it meaningful?
No. I mean, meaningful work is vast. I'm pressing meaningful work.
Okay, you pressed meaningful work.
It's just that it's the lack of being able to do that.
Well, we're not talking about that part. We're just talking about, is it important to you? If you were doing meaningful work right now, would you feel better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Philanthropy.
Okay.
Play.
Yeah, Jen agrees with me. What you're doing is meaningful work.
Yeah.
We're working on breaking.
That's definitely one of the things that I find some meaning in life.
Yeah. We're breaking stigma. We're talking about things that people aren't usually comfortable talking about. I can tell you in the group, the one community that I have outside of my home right now that I interact with regularly, as opening and welcome as they are, when we start talking about these types of issues, you can tell they're completely out of their league and they don't know what to do because no one has ever talked about these things with them.
Yeah. Recognition.
Recognition.
That's
okay.
It's an embarrassing one that I try not to let out, but it's there.
I think you'd be surprised how many people pick that one.
Yeah.
Being recognized for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Relationships. Exactly, Jen. Well, and it's not that they won't talk about important things. They talk about important things that they have some experience in, or it's something they've been exposed to. But mental health issues are such an unknown for so many people that it's easier to just not talk about it.
Yeah. Safety and security, both.
Safety and security.
Service.
Mm-hmm. It's hard being honest too, but also kind of gratifying looking at an idealized version of myself. Some of them are important, but I don't put them in place of importance in my life right now. Yeah. And as we go through this anthropophagic, you're going to find that the things that are more important to you right now are going to stay on the list. But also remembering the things that you picked as you went along can be informative on where you want to be or where you used to be but aren't still now.
Stability.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
Okay, so I'm
but I can't really say that.
Yeah, work is important, but it's not something that I value.
Yeah.
You might find you will change what is important to you right now. Exactly. Okay, so Jealous Mike, I'm going to read the ones that I have left.
Okay.
Adventure, challenges, change, competition, cooperation, creativity, decisiveness, excellence, fame, family, happiness, leadership, money, order, pleasure, power, privacy, religion, spirituality, status, wealth, and work.
That's what I've got.
Okay, so click Save, Values, and Continue.
Okay, Minecraft music is getting way too loud. Uh-oh, it said you left the game.
That's because I've been idle for too long.
Oh, I should probably unidle myself.
I'm going to stay out at the main menu for right now so that I can keep that music playing.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you say that, Jen, you find entering what's still left on the list. Are you talking about your list or his list? So, okay. His. Yeah. All right, now all the tiles are orange, correct? Once you click Save and Continue.
Yes.
You should have 27 total.
And now I go through and pick the ones that are the least valuable to me?
Now, nope. From this pile, it determined the number for you based on how many you picked. For me, this first round narrowed it down to 20.
Okay.
There's things on Jen. There's things on there I would have picked, and that's what I mean with interesting. Yeah, there are some things that he left on there that I would have picked, and some things that he chose that I wouldn't have. That's okay. This is his drill. Okay, so now we have to pare it down to 15. So go through these And I would say the ones that just absolutely jump. What did you say?
Oh, I said gotta get rid of 12.
Yes, you got to get rid of 12. The ones that automatically, without any doubt, just should be on, do those first. The ones that you have a question about, skip and we'll come back. Yep. I was putting it into words for the listeners, Jen, because they might not be reading what you're saying. I try to do it in ways where I'm not just reading what you say. I try to do it so that it's like I'm responding, but I include what you said so people aren't confused.
Okay.
All right, so starting.
This part I think is harder.
You think this part's hard? Wait till the next round. And see, I was honest with you. I told you that we're going to keep paring them down. My wife didn't tell me what was next. Once I got through one round, I thought, okay, I'm done. Then she said, pare it down again.
Yeah, so eventually we have to get this down to 3, right?
You'll see. Okay, so let's start with the first row. Of those 4 on there, which are ones that, without a shadow of a doubt, are still very much important to you? If there's anything that you have any doubts about right now, just wait, we'll come back to it. So autonomy, community, competence, and diversity.
Competence, I guess.
You sound like you're not so sure about that.
Well, because I know I have to get rid of so many, I'm second guessing every single one I have picked.
Yes, I know. But let's what I'm saying right now is let's go through and pick the ones that you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, have no doubt about. You may only pick 3 or 4 or 5. That's fine. Then we'll go back and add some more to it.
And in that case, we have to go to the second row and pick ethics.
That's fine. Okay, so ethics. Well, that would stay. So, actually, yeah, because it's minusing, we actually have to do it the other way. So, all right, you can just keep track of it. So ethics is one you're going to keep.
Yeah.
So I guess you could go through the whole list and say, okay, now that I'm seeing this list, this may not be as important as this one. And you're also going to see that some of them, I had a couple that overlapped in terms of what they were talking about, so it was very easy for me to eliminate one versus the other.
Yeah, pick one that.
Yeah. Because like community, friendship, and family, I had all of those on mine, and relationships. If you think about it, those 4 are different variations of the same thing.
Exactly. For example, but at the same time, generalizations can lose meaning. So things like ethics, it's so general that things like fairness or honesty or loyalty, those would fall under ethics, but all represent different things.
Yep. It's very true.
All right, I think I can get rid of meaningful work.
Meaningful work? Not as important to you now?
Well, it's very important. Get rid of excitement.
Okay, so we for sure we're getting rid of excitement.
Yeah.
What about meaningful work?
I got rid of meaningful work.
Got rid of meaningful. That's fine. No, that's fine. Have you gotten rid of anything else besides those 2?
No.
Okay.
Health, it's important, but I don't think it's going to make this first round.
Okay. So health is gone. You have to get rid of 9 more.
Independence can go.
Independence is it? Okay, gone.
I think recognition can go.
Okay. It's a lot harder than it looks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, is that there honestly isn't. Oh, it's my neighbors. Sorry, I heard something. There honestly isn't a wrong answer. No. If you get to the end and the list just doesn't quite feel right for you, you can go back on your own and do it again.
The parts of loyalty that I think are the most important to me are represented elsewhere, so I'm going to get rid of that. Even though the concept isn't gone, it's
Would you like to know my thinking when it came to that one?
Sure.
Loyalty is important for me, but right now, loyalty to me is what matters more. Because my exit from my previous life demonstrated for me that I really had no truly loyal friends in that world. Because as soon as I left it, they all abandoned me. They all stopped talking to me.
Yeah. It's the loyalty part is in some things and not others. So as a generalization, I think it can go. Okay. And I think integrity is going to stay, but because of how I view integrity, honesty can go, because they go hand in hand.
Okay, so which one, integrity or honesty?
Honesty is going to go because I think integrity fills that.
So I have, still on my screen, 8, 16, I have 20.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to get rid of 5 more.
5 more. I did tell you this was not going to be just a simple little drill.
Yeah. Okay, so same thing with diversity and fairness. To me, fairness encompasses diversity.
It's your list, so which one do you want to take off?
So I'm going to take off diversity. Not that it's not important, just that the fair treatment of others aspect is the more important side of diversity to me.
Well, and part of what this is doing is it's trying to get you to think about these concepts. What does that concept mean to you? Not just to others. So when you're looking at these, and honestly, you're doing this with an audience. So it's a little bit, I did it with an audience of 1. You're doing it with an audience of at least 7. So one of the things I had to remind myself when I was saying, and it was hard. It was hard. I think honestly, in some ways, it was harder for me to do it with the audience I had, because the audience that I had knew me and I knew would have thoughts specific to me about what choices I was making.
Yeah.
Whereas here, most of the people here who are watching aren't that close to you, except for me. But it's still in your head of, if I take that one off, what kind of person are other people going to think I am?
Oh, that part of my therapy was to try to get over that sort of stuff. I can't function if I'm thinking of what other people think of me.
It's true. It does. It hampers you. It handcuffs you. I feel a lot of these are important. Okay.
I'm going to get rid of community for the same reasons diversity. Is that for me, what's most important about that is fairness, so it's going to stay in.
So community leaves.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it does. Things like loyalty can be very good. You're right, anthropophagic, but putting it ahead of other things, yeah, that you're going to see problems of putting one in front of the other. And yes, is it more important than, say, like you said, ethics? The only way you can get through this one is to one ideal to each other. It doesn't. It does not make it. It's very difficult. That's why after the first step I had to take when I was doing this was, okay, which are the ones that for sure I'm keeping? And then I started looking at the ones that were left and go, okay, obviously I thought this was important. Let's look for any overlap, any actual overlap in things that I can say, okay, this is actually encompassed in this one, and this is encompassed in this one. That's not a perfect system.
Absolutely everything that we're getting rid of is stuff that the person doing it has said is important.
Exactly. And doing that comparison thing of what overlaps with the others is not perfect, because the reason why they're separate is once you start thinking about it, those things actually cover very different things.
Yeah, and I think the same thing. Security and stability, for me, the parts of stability that are the most important fall under security, so I can get rid of stability. Okay,
stability's gone. So at this point we have 17 left.
2 more.
2 more, you can do it.
And then again, autonomy and freedom. Autonomy is the most important parts.
I agree, anthropophagic. I think Jealous Mike is very brave by doing this with an audience.
Oh, well, that's the existence of our Monday streams, right?
Exactly. We talk about things that, and I export these all to YouTube, so they stay there. Yeah. So anybody could stumble across them. So, and yeah, Jen, you're right. You should have seen Jen in my extra live stream on Friday. Once she showed up, she was the only one talking.
Yeah, word salad is. Salads are great, man. Or woman.
Well, and that's what we have here. We have a word salad.
All right, so autonomy is going to stay. Freedom is going.
Freedom is going. Okay, so we're down to 16. One more.
One more.
Uno más.
All right, so
generally, Jen, I don't have a problem with that if the chat's not talking in general. And what I've found is that chat will respond. They will step up.
So helping others, philanthropy, and service overlap so much that I think I could get rid of philanthropy.
Okay.
Because it's represented in the other two very, very well.
Yes. Okay. So what we have left is autonomy, competence, ecology, education, ethics, fairness, flexibility, friendship, helping others, integrity, play, relationships, safety, security, and service.
Yep.
Okay, save and continue.
Okay.
And now you have to cut it down to 10. Oh, you should have seen me last night, Anthropophagic, and Jen in Anthropophagic stream once he got me going on linguistics and the work that we used to do.
Oh yeah.
I told him, Mike. I told him that you and I would just geek out over language stuff all the time, and oftentimes at work when on the rare occasions when we were just completely on our own and didn't have anything to do, these are the kind of things that we would all sit around and laugh about and joke about is languages and stuff.
One of my best teachers, when we were in school, who I thought my best teacher was somebody who didn't just say, "Oh, this word is a synonym of this word," or give us things where it's like 6 different words mean the same thing, but he knew English so well that he was able to give us differentiation between word meanings. Be like, yes, they all seem very similar, but these are when you would use this word versus when you would use this word in the context of it. Because contextual meaning for me was one of the only ways I could really understand anything.
The thing that I was talking about last night was that moment when you remember that class that I took when I actually lived with you. I came back and lived with you for a month.
I remember that you took a class. I don't know that I know anything about the class.
It was a language refresher class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, remember I built my Captain America shield while I was there?
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so that during that class was in 2015, so 10 years after I graduated almost. So we were a couple months shy of my 10-year, graduation anniversary. And that was when a teacher finally explained the language to me in a way that completely made sense, and that was the musical side of it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, you remember the conjugation, the oo, the ah, and the e, the subject, the direct object, and the genitive?
Yep.
When he was explaining it, he said, think about this, how it would sound if you were singing it the way they usually
sing verses from the Quran.
Exactly. And he said that you don't want to have, it's better to have a low to a high note, or a low to a higher to a high, and then down to a high note, than to have the highest note first or the middle higher note first. It doesn't sound right.
So direct objects being the E, because it's the highest.
No, direct objects are the ah. The genitives are the prepositions. Those are the highest, the E. It seems, you want to think that the ah is the highest just because of the way it looks, because you're thinking of the aleph, which is just this long mark that goes right off the screen.
It was done to it.
Yeah. You're right. You're thinking of it right in the case, but the sound, the note E is all if you were comparing them to when you actually say that sound, it's actually a slightly higher octave than the A sound. So.
Okay, I think helping others is going to stay, and I think that covers service, like the same thing with philanthropy. So
okay,
so service and leave helping others.
Okay, so we have 14 to go.
I think so. The things like fairness and friendship and helping others cover what's important about relationships for me.
Okay.
So I'm getting rid of relationships.
All right. It is crazy. You're right, it is, but it makes sense. And that's why one of my all-time favorite Star Trek episodes is I can't remember. Is it Dharmak and Jalad?
Where he has to learn to
Dharmak and Jalad at whatever the place at Talagra. The whole they speak in metaphors.
Yeah,
that's one of my absolute favorite episodes. And actually, Michelle's father-in-law, since it came out, he's been showing it to teams that he takes on mission trips. Every single time, but before they leave, he'll make them watch that episode. Because he says, you're going somewhere where people aren't going to understand you. This is a good thing to watch.
As important as competence is to me, I think a lot of it is covered under education, because it's more that I love knowing stuff, learning stuff, that creates the sense of competence that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I'm going to get rid of competence, because for me, that's covered under education.
And from what I know of you, I would agree with that logic. Because you were always that person who wanted to make sure that you were getting it right.
Correct.
And you wanted to make sure that the people around you were getting it right.
Yeah. It was less about, like, I know what it is, and more about, let's learn what it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're down to 12. I need 2 more.
Hoy, 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 hoy.
This is where you really have to start reading the meanings and see which one, like ranking them. Like this is much more important than this, and so on and so forth. My wife said I looked like I was actually being tortured when I got down to the so few cards, and I still had to keep paring them down.
Ethics and integrity. So I find it important to not stick with a concept just because you think it's right.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember when you and I used to talk politics very early on, when we were in our little deployed down the hall thing, it was less important to me that my idea be right than I can see things from other points of view, that my personal ethics can be adjusted based off of context, based off of a further understanding. So I think that means ethics needs to stay, but integrity can go, because that differentiation to me says that integrity, while important, it can't be there for its own sake.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so integrity's gone.
It still comes back down to ethics.
Yeah. There's actually an interesting discussion that you can have about ethics versus integrity. That Captain America's the movies that they made for him deal strongly about.
Yeah.
Which is why Winter Soldier is still my favorite of all of them.
So safety and security are too redundant. I'm going to get rid of security. Oh, that's 10.
You're down to 10, so click save and move on. And now for the last step, pick 5.
So I'm going to get rid of 5. As much as play, I want it to stay, it has to go.
Play, imagination, spontaneity, and ability to be amused. Okay, that one's gone.
Autonomy is going to have to go, because flexibility, I think, is covered as much as I can without getting rid of something. Autonomy is good. The ecology and environment have to go.
I was wondering how long that one would stay once you started getting down to the very important things.
It really pisses me off what we're doing to our environment.
I've seen a couple of people do this, and that one stayed for a long time, but it never made it to the final round.
No.
No, we're close. He's only got to knock out two more.
Flexibility has to go. Ugh. think education will be the last to go.
Okay, so we have ethics, fairness, friendship, helping others, and safety. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Okay, so click save.
Done.
Now you find out what you value. Now it shows me having done it twice now because I did the thing, but you can actually see your values there, and that is a generic bit of text right there for units. But I want to make sure I highlight that. Living in alignment is matching your real behaviors with your ideal values. So when I was faced with that decision of do I stop what I'm doing and just take the safe route and stay in until I finish, or do I pull the plug and jump out, take the parachute with me and get the heck out of there? And doing the exercise so that I could see what values mattered to me. If you on my screen, the people who are looking, the first group there, the one that's not highlighted in orange, those are the ones that I did when I did it today. I came up with those are almost exactly the same as what they were when I did this in 2016.
Interesting.
Now, some of the things that hung around until this last round were a bit different because I'm more aware of what I needed what I need as a part of my recovery. So the things that came along with it still they differed verily, but I still ended up with the 5 here that are all very, very, very identical. And so for me, it's creativity, family, happiness, helping others, and religion. Because faith is important to me. Being of help to others is important. This isn't just like I need to be happy. It's that happiness in general. It's something that I struggle for, and when I have it, I feel a lot better, and I know that other people do too.
That goes hand in hand with the helping others.
Mm-hmm.
It is, even though it's not on mine, happiness is so important for pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
That helping others, I think, translates into trying to offer that to them too.
So, and obviously family. I mean, I have a family, and without my family, I wouldn't have made it as far as I have. Yeah. And and the reason why creativity is still on there is because I lost my creative side for the better part of a year. This past, and it really, really messed me up, and I hated being that person, and I wanted it back. So that's why creativity made it through. So, all right. Well, that was fun. Right, Jealous Mike? That was fun.
So something occurred to me as I was looking at these. Looking back on my life, I think it's the things within that last list that can end up conflicting with one another. So for friendship is one there on mine. And it's when a friendship to somebody feels like it makes me have to not accept the other values. That is obscenely hard.
Yeah. Anthropophagic. I like that the way you said that the expectation is he'll go one way, but he chooses not. And for me, that's the difference between ethics and integrity. Because everybody looks at ethics differently. An external person looking down saying the ethical choice is that you support the system that you've declared your loyalty to because it's supposed to work the way it is. But when he looked at it from an ethical point of view, he realized that it was the opposite, that it was sacrificing something to achieve something else. And his integrity, that side of him said, I can't do that. So while he made the ethical decision for himself, he made the unethical decision for everybody else. And it didn't matter that he was sticking to his integrity. They just disregarded that. So that's the conflict of character that I see in Winter Soldier that to this day has made it. I cannot watch that one enough. I love the conflict, and I love the story. Friendship is more than just with friends. You feel your mom and dad are friends, your brothers and sisters as your partner. Yep. Yeah. My wife is my best friend. I'm lucky enough to say that. We are very different people. But yeah. You liked it? Yeah, that's why another reason why I liked it, that character. And yes, they carried it over really well into the third one. So go lurk, make your phone call. Which interpretation? Not the one of Captain America: Winter Soldier. You also have to understand that I was when did that one come out? That was, I forget now precisely when it came out, but I was starting to have my struggle with the organization and the way they functioned with things early on. And that movie kind of really punted out there really, really strongly that I needed to be done.
Yeah.
It was
a conflict that really does exist.
Yeah.
So much so that it can be represented in media, in entertainment.
Yeah. That real struggle of that real struggle of, for me, the whole, how do we, we say we're on the right side, we think we're on the right side, but how often do we make choices that we think are right because we think we're on the right side that are actually wrong?
Yeah.
And that that movie encapsulated it for me. I'm sure everybody has their interpretations for that movie that fit their story too, but for me at the time, that was the thing that really hit home of what was. And it's the whole movie itself is a values thing. What does Cap value? What are the things that matter to him? Is it the country, or is it his integrity, his ideals, his those things like that? Which of those matters most to him? And watching that play out, I after I did the values exercise, I remember watching Winter Soldier again and thinking that's what he was doing, just on the fly with people shooting at him. Which thankfully I'm glad I didn't have to experience that side of it. Captain Oz, welcome back. I'm sorry, MS. I'm sorry. And Jen, you're right. We are not creatures, as much as many of us would like to say we are. We are not creatures that are meant to live in isolation.
No.
Some can do it. Some are maybe slightly better off because they can do it. But in the long run, that's not how we work. And as much as me wanting to pull into myself what made me feel safe, getting back out and being involved in a community like my church, like Extra Life, things like that, were things that I was giving up in the process of trying to feel safe. And so I had basically had to focus on that values drill again. Which is more important to me, feeling safe and secure, or feeling that I belong to a community?
Yeah.
And see, my wife, she's actually never lived alone. And there are times when she has, in our relationship, has pined for what it would be like to live alone until she actually does it. And then she thinks, nope, don't want it. So.
Like when you're gone for however long.
And yes, if you look at the cover, that's again, you judge the book by the cover. You look at the cover and you think, oh man, he's just a poster child for the American, dream, the American ideal, the whatever it is they're doing. And it's not until you actually dig down into the character that you, like the movies did, that you realize, oh, this is more. And I think the difference between the first movie, Captain America, the first Avenger, and Winter Soldier, is those two basically, like he's presented as that model that you're talking about in Captain America, the first movie. And even though he kind of defies some of that in order to go save his friend and do other things, he still serves as that kind of poster child. And then in Winter Soldier, he starts to become disillusioned with the system that he is being propped up to representative of. And it's really obvious when you read the comics. When you read the actual Civil War sequence, the actual Civil War thing, it is really obvious that struggle is something that he is struggling with.
I think because I was never really familiar with him, all I ever saw was he represented just some strange abstract ideal, and I thought that was naive, and that might be why I never really got into him, because I never understood that there was more to it.
Well, the thing was, back in the day, why focus on that when you had Superman?
Yeah,
I mean, that's when it comes down to it, that's essentially what Superman was. He was the Boy Scout who would always do things right. Trying to figure out why this thing isn't showing this browser window.
Right as in a systemic concept of right, not right as in I think and try to figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
Or make my, understand what makes right, not just what I'm told is right, or what is supposed to be right.
Yeah. All right, I'm trying to put the browser on the page so that you can see what it is I'm looking at when I Alt-Tab out, but it's being a butt right now. Oh no, we'll see if it goes back to it. But I do need to... Yeah, see, it's not even showing for you guys. Like, I'm not really sure. I mean, you just see a black blob. I'm not really sure why it's doing that. It's not like... And I have to do window capture because it's just a window, and it worked fine earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I put it in my other browser that I have open, that'll work so people can see what it is we're building. So while I'm doing that, Cellist Mike, do you have thoughts on what you just went through?
I think the hardest part of the consideration, and I think this is, key to, the discussion about Winter Soldier, this is key to the things I was feeling, is when those values conflict with each other and understanding, being able to differentiate what of those things are the most important, even when there's so many that are important, be able to say, okay, but this one is more important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could probably change depending on the circumstances. Not in general, but circumstantially, I think. But there's so many times where those values will conflict with each other in our lives, that being able to see and have to see, say, in a safe situation, I think that's what this presented, was a safety net, to be able to look at these and say, oh, these are different, they're all important, but I have to pick one over another. I think that's representative of life in general. There are so many times where conflicts between those come into play. So things like helping others in philanthropy and safety, they're, unfortunately, in my current life situation, I had been helping one of my friends for years and years and years. She has a similar story to so many people. One of the biological donors to her child is not present, has no desire to be present other than once in a while, and doesn't help financially, and she doesn't have a whole lot of family help either. And so things like helping others and my own safety, when my own finances got to a point where I couldn't help anymore, it was so hard to make the decision. It just ripped me apart. But at the end of the day, I had to decide that I couldn't help her anymore, because otherwise my own safety and security were going to be compromised.
Yeah.
And so that values chart, it lets you see that those conflicts arise, but without having the emotional ramifications involved of when it happens in real life.
Well, and one of the things that I had to adjust to as a part of my recovery was my decision-making process is not the same as it was before. And Nautilus, there's so many comics to keep up with. What I can tell you is that in the series of events that follows the Civil War in the comics, what happens in Civil War actually has a long ramification in the coming events that follow after that, all the way to the point where I'm currently, I think, into the third event that happens after Civil War, and they are still dealing with the ramifications of the Superhuman Registration Act. Specifically, how friendships have been fractured and some people are dead and no longer present. Separate from Infinity War and Endgames, that kind of things. I'm just saying, in the actual Civil War events, some superheroes did not make it out of it. So it's interesting to see the long term, how they took that one event and have expanded their entire series of events after it to touch on what Civil War dealt with. Secret invasion, for instance, they basically said secret invasion happened because Civil War happened. House of M, when Wanda Maximoff made all the mutants disappear, that was the triggering event that told the people who were doing secret invasion, it's time, do it now. So, but to your point, what you're saying, the deconstruction of the American patriotism narrative, more so what you said, the irony in doing that gives a bit of solution of what it should actually mean. Is it, are you patriotic to a country, or are you patriotic to an ideal?
Yeah.
And that's where things like the values determine what you're going to choose in that instance. When you're faced with that decision, what are you going to choose? When I was faced with the decision, do I stay in because it's the easy choice, or do I get out because I'm not going to make it if I don't?
Yeah.
Once I put it down, once I could see what mattered to me, it was an easy decision to make. Now, have I had regrets of that decision ever since?
Of course.
Yes, I have had lots of regrets of that decision.
Because it wouldn't have been of value to stay if there weren't things that you really, really needed or wanted out of staying.
Yeah.
It would have been an easy decision otherwise.
Yeah. Oh,
so of course you're going to regret. Because you lost a lot of...
I lost a lot of stability and security, things that would have probably made my road after I left a bit easier. I lost some of those things. So it's ironic that I gave up some things that were important, but because earlier in that exercise, but because they didn't make it to the end, and other things did, like my belief in my faith and the value that I know others place in helping me and stuff, that made that decision a lot easier. But in the same time, I also found out who I could really count on.
Yeah.
So, and yes, I think that's a very good way of encapsulating it. Knots. It's are you loyal to a country, a person, or are you loyal to an ideal? And I think Winter Soldier put that front and center. And it's something that I did briefly for one of my characters in my story when the decision was being made. And it's something that will be encountered in one of the later books, where she has to step back and go, "Why am I putting up with this? Why am I doing this?" And that thought process, that discussion of why is it that important, is going to play a role in what she chooses going past that. And it's one of the key final character development steps in her story. Yes, and yeah, exactly. Ethics it's a continuous process, and you have to completely reevaluate. Just because you think a certain ethic is, or ethical value is important in this context, once your context has been broadened or deepened, suddenly that value changes. It's not that the value doesn't matter anymore, but you may realize that in that specific situation, that value doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's like for example, the value of free speech is something that in America, we as an organization, America puts extreme value on. But for any one person, what they think that should encompass isn't the same as another person may feel.
Oh yeah, and
what are you free to say?
in a book that I was reading recently, which I do recommend people take the time to read. It's if you get the Audible version, it's I think a 4-hour listen, so it's not very long. But he brings up the concept of sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So can you say again what you just said?
So, as an organization, America, we value the
Freedom. I got it.
freedom of speech.
I got it. Freedom. He said that freedom, separate from responsibility, is not freeing at all.
Yes.
That is more likely to lead to arbitrary actions. And it's that whole, just because you're free to say something doesn't mean you're free. Yeah, you can say it if you want, because you have that right. But there are consequences. There are consequences for saying it, and you're not absolved from saying what you said because you hide behind the thing. Oh, I'm free to say it. It's the whole idea behind.
Say it.
Yeah.
And while the government probably shouldn't do anything about it, society is still going to hold you accountable for what you just said.
Very, very much so. And I'm sure everyone has encountered someone who said this. No offense, but
I'm about to say something offensive.
I'm going to say something offensive, and I'm going to do it with that no offense in front, so that I'm absolving myself of offending you. Like, no, that's not. You can say no offense, but it's my choice. I am the one who has to choose whether what you say offends me, and how I'm going to respond to it. And if what you say offends me, it doesn't matter that you said it. No offense, but you offended me, and now here's the consequence of you saying that. I would say Superman has been challenged a lot to assess his values. The whole him not killing actually was something they added later in the comics. If you look at the very first Superman #1, he's throwing a car at a human. Yeah. There is no way that that's going to end with the human not dying. And he punched a man with his strength through a wall. That would have collapsed his chest. So there are a lot of violent ethical moments in the first Superman which make you question, was this really a value? And it's not. The people who know that it's not. It wasn't always that wasn't important to him until he killed something. Mm. Exactly. It's an excuse to be rude and to say what you want to say. And this is very common among people who think, well, I'm just keeping it real. Yeah. Which is a very, very frustrating state to be in. Like, wait, really?
Yeah, one of the things that bothers me about, saying it how it is, it's like, but that doesn't take into account that there is so much more to account for than is being accounted by the person saying whatever they think is real. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, you may say something that is real, but it doesn't mean that it's all-encompassing of all the considerations the community should.
Well, it's also one of the things I say this to people a lot who like to use certain language around me. I often will challenge them to say, "Hey, okay, look, you are free to say what you want, but there are consequences for saying it. There are literally thousands of words in the English language that you can say, and no one is going to say a word to you about saying them. There are very few words in the English language that are guaranteed to offend someone. Yeah. And again, you're free to say what you want. It's your consequence. It's your right. But why say something that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt is going to offend somebody when there's another word you can say which will accomplish the same thing, and you won't offend? And it's not the responsibility of the person's being offended to not be offended. They have a reason for being offended, and their reason for not being offended is as important as your reason for saying what you're saying.
Like when you and I are talking, I think you know that I have a filthy mouth. I have a horrible sense of humor and a terrible mouth. But when I'm talking with you...
He's not wrong.
I filter this. Like on stream, if I were to tell somebody I have a filthy mouth, they'd be like, oh, no, you don't. But... it's because I don't know how everybody that's hearing me feels. And in the case that I do know you, Brian, why in the world would I want to say something that makes you feel uncomfortable or bad or whatever? That's stupid.
Yeah, freedom of opinion doesn't mean freedom from criticism. That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out. I'm going to put this out there and say I have never told anyone who's around, especially in our previous life. I've never told them they shouldn't use the language they want. I've just never used it around them. And one of the things I found is that because I never used the language around them, they naturally self-corrected. Because whether or not they were realizing it or not, they were self-correcting to what was around them.
It's one of the ways you can tell that we're naturally a social species.
Yeah.
Is we all, except for there are some exceptions, but usually they have to do with psychological disorders.
Yeah.
But we have the tendency to mimic one another, and we also feel more comfortable around others if they've mimicked us.
Mm-hmm. It's precisely what Jen is just saying. We're monkeys. Monkeys are likely to mirror something.
Tend to mirror, yeah.
Because and it's not just monkeys, Jen. I have a cat, and we have a cat in this house who, when we first adopted her in, she didn't do some of the things that she did to interact with us, but she saw us doing them to try to interact with her, and then she started doing them, and now she does them to get attention. So the simplest one to describe is the high five. We would have her give us high five in order to get a treat, and we would do that over and over and over. Then we started doing it with food. Now, if she wants our attention, she'll sit right in front of us and she'll just reach up with her paw like, high five, and it gets attention.
Yeah.
It's called the herd mentality, Jen. That whole, when you walk around, people tend to herd towards people. That's why when you're walking down the aisle, instead of people veering out of your way, they just kind of naturally, because they're watching you, they subconsciously veer towards you. It's really frustrating when you don't like having people in your space. But yeah, it's kind of like it's very similar to the herd mentality. And if you have a person who is acting more dominant, the people who are with them will naturally merge in behind them and follow them. So it was really hard for me when I took my family to Prague several years ago, trying to keep them all together and moving, because they just wouldn't pay attention at all. It didn't matter that I knew where we were going and I was trying to lead them. So I essentially had to put myself in the middle and just keep an eye on all of them so I knew relatively where all the sheep were and could keep the herd moving in one direction but not lose any of them.
Well, shepherd dogs, they don't lead. They're on the sides, they're behind. Very rarely are shepherd dogs ever in the front of the herd.
Yeah, they're generally behind them. So they can just kind of go, get going. You have a place to be. That I like that. I've never heard it put that way, Nautilus, but the thought terminating cliche that you say something that basically is meant to be, this is the end of this conversation. Whether you intend it that way or just everybody looks at it and says, well, if you think like that, I'm just not going to continue. And the boys will be boys. That one for me is a very touchy one because we excuse so much behavior of boys just because they're boys. And my wife and I have been struggling to teach my daughter to not exempt boys from proper behavior. And she has said it. She said, oh, boys will be boys. And we said, no, that is not an excuse for their behavior.
Yeah, I mean, people think that it's specifically gendered, that concept, and it's not. It's just that right now, we have an opportunity to self-correct as a society. And why not do that?
Now, I'm going to say this very carefully. I value the difference in the genders. I think that those differences kind of make the world go.
But one difference in the genders is not, one gender it's okay to be an asshole and butthole, and the other it's not.
Hey, mind you. This is a family-friendly stream. Mind your language.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
yes, it really, and my wife, Jen, as she has become more self-aware and more aware of the world around her, it really pushes her buttons. She has actually this now. My wife. Now you have to understand. My wife she's the person who once they meet her, everybody likes. Now she has her rough edges. I know them especially because I'm married to her. And when you get to know her, you'll learn what those rough edges are. But the thing about her is everything else about her is so likable that you just kind of go, okay, so she's forgetful. So she runs a little late. When she gets worked up about something, she can be a little harsh. But outside of that, I mean, I really don't know anyone that once they've met her doesn't like her. The thing is, this same now I said all that as this setup. When we were in college, same type of personality. There was a guy who was sitting there who was just being a chauvinist's chauvinist. And it pretty much, and he was interested in her, and it pretty much ended any chance he had with her. But she was so sick of hearing it that she put her spoon in a bowl of pudding and flung it in his face. Nice. Now, to his credit, he stopped, thought about what he had just said, and said, "I think I deserved that." So that was a very mature response. He could have had the exact opposite response, but he had a very mature response, and I give him credit for that, and so does she. And after that, he was very careful about what he said, and they remained friends. We all remained friends until he graduated a year before I did. But that side of her has just become a little more pronounced of, I'm not putting up with your crap. I'm not going to be gaslighted. I'm not going to be belittled because of my gender or how I think or anything like that. And she's actually started cutting off family because of the things that they say that bother her.
And I think that's one of those, for her at least, that's got to be one of those final 5 conflicts. You know, when does one of the final 5 values trump the other?
Yeah.
And that has to have just been an emotional nightmare.
Well, and we have worked very hard to teach my daughter that there isn't anything she can't do if she wants to do it. Now, obviously, there are some things that people are limited to based on size of body, like pilots. You're not going to be a pilot if you're over. You have a very low chance of being a pilot if you're over 6 feet tall. It's a limitation of the job. Mm-hmm. If you are under a certain weight or height, you're not going to go into the military. It's just they won't let you in because there are jobs that you would have to do that because you're so short and so small, you wouldn't actually be able to do. Because they're not going to redesign an entire weapon system because around a shorter person. The weapon systems are the weapon systems.
Even in the special forces, it is the limitations on women being allowed in the special forces is gone. However, there are few who make the cut because the physical requirements have not been changed. And it's harder to say the physical requirements should be changed than it is to say women shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. You're talking about systemic discrimination that is either intentional or unintentional. It exists because of the way the system operated prior to that, and it hasn't adapted.
Well, okay, so I'm going to qualify. I agree. I say yes, that is kind of part of what I'm looking at, but I will qualify it. As long as the physical requirements that are in place represent the actual requirements to do the job, then I'm okay with the systemic discrimination.
Yeah, because it's because the system hasn't updated yet. Once the system updates, then there's no excuse for it, and there wouldn't be, and it wouldn't happen. They've made changes. I can't think of any specifically right off the top of my head, but I know they've made changes along the lines of certain things because they realized that the metric that they were using to measure it was actually outdated.
Yeah. So once upon a time, I probably would have made the physical requirements to be in special forces. I didn't try. I didn't want to be. I'm fine with the things that I have and would have wanted to do in support of. But being a SEAL, being I'm trying to be careful with my words here. Being a SEAL, being a CCS, or what is the Air Force? Is it CSS? No, I thought it's CCS.
Special
CCT.
Ops.
CCT.
Yeah, that.
Being SEAL, being CCT, being Delta, being MARSOC.
Can I toss something on there because I think I know where you're going?
Sure.
those forces have very specific physical requirements that you have to prove you can meet.
Yes.
That's just that, and it's because of the nature of the work they do. However,
that's what I'm talking about.
However, if their argument is we don't want to put females in that environment because the boys will be boys, that is the opposite of it.
Yeah.
So
and there are women. Females is just mentality of males, females, but there are women who have made the cut.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make the cut today. Not even freaking close.
Yeah. I never would have tried.
Yeah, so there is a point in time where I would have made the cut. And there are a lot of women who could make the cut. But I would say that as long as the physical standards match the requirements, which, understanding what they do, I think they do. I mean, that is just obscenely physically demanding. Again, I couldn't make the cut, and I shouldn't be able to make the cut. Not the way I am. But yeah, if a woman makes the cut physically and psychologically, then they should absolutely be part of the team.
And some have.
Yeah, and some have. But even then, that particular community...
It's a very community.
Very closed. Yeah, and you may meet all of the requirements in the world, and if they don't like you, you're not making it.
Yeah.
Like that is such a closed community.
But then that gets back to the systemic part.
Yes. If you have representations of the people making the decisions, if they have a conscious or unconscious gender bias, you're screwed for things that have no business being part of the qualifications.
Well, hey, okay, Jen. So I'm going to do for you what I did recently for my daughter. Sit, and just listen to what I say. Just sit there, close your eyes, and think about the cutest small creature that is important to you. That could be a cat, it could be a dog, it could be a rat. For my daughter, it would be a rat. It could be a bat, a snake, whatever it is. Just think about that and take 5 deep, slow breaths. And by 5 breaths, I mean in and out. So try. I've had to do this with my daughter, with Zoe, recently to get her to go to sleep. And it is understandable why a topic like this would trigger you, because in some cases it's just the system making excuses for itself. In others, it's just people being bad people. We don't have any solutions. If we had solutions, we would put them out there. But to get back to what the thought that started this, which Knots was talking about earlier. Let me scroll up to the chat. He said, it's not really a common term. I think in this case he was talking about boys will be boys. It's from philosophy. Oh, no, he means the thought terminating cliche. It's from philosophy. It just stuck with me because you started noticing more and more thought killers in communication. And you're not wrong. We're doing a Star Wars marathon because the last movie is coming out in December. So we're like, well, let's watch all the movies in order. We're about to start Rogue One. So that means we just suffered through the prequels. And when we got to that final showdown between, I say showdown, but it was more just horribly staged, horribly, choreographed, stupid lightsaber duel. Before they got into the fight, Anakin was sitting there saying, if you're not with me, you're against me. Like very concrete thinking. And I was talking to my daughter later saying, in that moment, when he made that choice, when did he make that choice? And she said, before they started fighting. He said, how many times after he said those words did he have the chance to choose to stop thinking like that? And she stopped and she was like, oh, well, it was right there when they were fighting there. When they got into the office, when they knocked each other down. She just listed, half a dozen, maybe more places where he could have stopped and stopped doing what he was doing. And I built on that and say everything that he did from there until his encounter with Luke and the Emperor was a choice that he kept making. And he kept living in that absolute world that he put himself in. But he never had to stay there except of his own choice.
That's one of the comforting things. Again, back to when I was in therapy. Setting goals for myself. There would always be shoot for what you want to be not what you think you can achieve necessarily, but to be paired with that, I would always fail at fully achieving my goals. And it was never over. Just because I didn't achieve these goals, I did achieve other little ones. But just because I didn't achieve a goal doesn't mean that that goal is now gone. Because every moment, every day, every hour is another opportunity to achieve the goals that are important to me.
Well, I hope you took the moment to take a breath and center yourself. I'm assuming you're referencing back to the conversation we were just having.
The family. Family.
I was actually in that case. I was talking. Yeah, Jen. Yeah. So. Okay. Actually, I said that because it was just common. It was just what I would tell anybody who said that that happened. But I actually missed that statement that you were talking about.
I'd say that you're braver than me. You're braver than a lot of people.
Yes, and that is precisely what my wife has done. There are certain members of the family who she has just cut off contact with because they are toxic and the ways that they view things. Some of the things and most of her interaction with them is via social media, so it's easy to kind of cut that off. But she just, I don't want to see the thing, because what they're saying is basically telling me that what I want to do with my life is a waste of time. They don't see it that way. They see they're just stating their opinion on a current topic. But in the process of saying it, they're telling her what you want to do with your life is of no importance in this construct, because it just doesn't matter. And so she had to cut them off. The thing is, I think several of them don't even realize. But that's how blind they are to the conversation. That they didn't even realize that she had cut them off. Okay, so I think I made a mistake somewhere right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and work my way this way, and then I'll be able to see where the mistake was. If they will not recognize my feelings and my experiences, I do not need them. I won't have them. Yeah, and sometimes family is better at a distance. I actually think this a lot about both sides of my family, that I like my family. My family has been extremely supportive of us as we've gone through this rough time. They have earned our eternal gratitude, and we will stick by them more than we will stick by others. But there are still reasons that we want, like keeping our family at a distance, because it just works better that way. At one point, I would tell the joke, I live in Germany, my sister lives in Alaska, and my parents live in Japan, and we are very happy about this arrangement. Now my parents and my sister both live in Alaska. They're about 60 miles apart, but it's closer. It's closer than we as a nuclear family ourselves. We like being kind of distant from them. There are some members of the family who we would like to be able to see more, some less, but it's just we are our own unit. So like when the family wants to find these big get-togethers, I mean, think about that. What part of me wants to go to a huge family gathering?
Yeah, it's like, yes, it may be family, but it's still a lot of people.
A lot of people, a lot of stress. So when they insist on making those plans, how do you think that makes me feel? And as a result, it's started making my wife feel that family is just not listening. That they're not aware. So But that said, they are, at least in the cases of me, they are becoming more aware.
Good.
I'm glad those relationships are getting tighter. I'm glad that it's working out. I used to not be able to. Let's put it this way: there was a point in my life where I didn't want anything to do with my original family. That I didn't want to do anything with them, and it was shortly after I graduated and I was back from Korea. So this was at least 2 years after, maybe 3. Yeah, it was 2 years after, because I graduated in 2000, so this was 2002, because it was after my parents went back after our wedding in 2001. My dad was stationed in Korea, so my mom went to live with them after we got married. And then when they came back, there was some conflict with my parents and my sister reintegrating, and I got calls from both of them saying, we may have been a little harsh in judging you. All three of them, both groups said we may have been a little harsh in judging you when you were growing up. I'm not going to give the particulars, but that was, for me, that was my family reaching out and saying, okay, maybe we need to adapt our relationship based on this new information and
reality.
Yeah, and that meant, for me, that meant, okay, I'm willing to try. I still think we're better at a distance, but that's okay. Some families are. I mean, to be honest, for me, that's what life is like. I spent most of my life growing up never seeing my extended family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my wife's been dealing with lately, of some of the extended family and on both sides, some of the extended family on both sides, just to say things, and they don't think about how they're going to affect the people that are around them, and that bugs her. I was very nervous when family visited this summer, but my wife made it very clear to me, you're my family, you're the ones who I'm going to look out for. And that meant a lot to me, because it meant, because it was her family that was visiting. And so there's there's connections there that are older than ours, even though we've known each other for 20 plus years now. I think at this point she's known me more than half of her life. Now, she's known her parents her entire life, and her brothers and sisters. So I'm never going to get to that level. So there's some of that connection of, oh, these are people that I've known longer. But hearing her say that if I'm anybody's caretaker, I'm your caretaker. I'm not going to be anybody else's. And that was I needed to hear that. And I think she knew I needed to hear that. So
and this is why you married her.
Oh, I married her because I knew almost immediately after meeting her that I wanted to marry her. It was just a matter of me waiting until she figured that out.
This is why your marriage is still super valuable to you.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I could not have gone anywhere as far as my recovery is concerned. I would not have made it as far as I have if she hadn't been there helping me. I also probably wouldn't have been as self-aware. I mean, if you remove the Michelle element from my life, it's a whole different world that we're talking about for me. One that may have precluded the trauma that I faced. Like, it would not have.
You would have not been able to recognize the conflict within yourself.
No. I mean, I would not have gone down the road that I went down.
Oh. Because
my family needed supported. So that was why I went. That's why I chose to enlist. So, but I may have still ended up enlisting. I don't know. When I do the thought exercise, what if, I really don't like what that would look like. So I don't give it much thought.
And it's not that she's perfect, but she is a dang good match for you.
Hey, Jen, you do not have to say anything that you don't feel comfortable spelling out. If there are times, if you feel the need to talk outside of stream, we can arrange that. But I'm really
being on stream.
I can listen, but I'm going to tell you that I'm here. I'm listening, but these are usually topics better directed at a professional. But I will never force anybody to go to a professional if they're not ready. So you do not talk about anything you don't feel comfortable. Just because we are comfortable talking about our things doesn't mean everybody is, and it doesn't mean you have to be to participate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As we said at the beginning, go ahead.
Even if somebody wants to participate but aren't comfortable with details, generalities, things are so similar in impact that although details have power, just like the not always being ready to go to a professional, it's if it takes you too far out, participate however is best for you or not.
Mm-hmm. That's the key. If it's your participation needs to be beneficial to you, not us, but to you. And if the way you're participating is not beneficial, then that you have to make sure you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I was so happy that I found the therapy that I found, because I'm not entirely sure I was ready yet to talk about the things that I faced. So finding a therapy that meant I could actually not talk about those things specifically was huge for me. So that's 1, 2, 3 sets of 2. Okay. And yes, if anyone's wondering, it is extremely hard to count these things while having this conversation. But it's something that it's not that mind engrossing. I just know I'm probably making mistakes and I'll have to go back and fix them. Yeah, I kind of had to take my my therapy and my self-care to the next level because it was time for my wife to take a step back from the more active role she was taking. That's part of why we got the service dog, because she needed to be free to pursue the things that she wants to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's been a little difficult for me, but it's been a healthy challenge too. It does not mean I've succeeded.
Yeah, it's like crutches or wheelchairs. If you can heal and progress beyond them, you should.
Yeah. But if you're not ready to, that's also fine. Okay, so let me look back over here. Nope. I keep trying to scroll out to zoom out, and I keep just changing the thing that's in my hand. Okay, so 4, 3, 2, 3. 4, 3, 2, 3. Okay, that's right. 2, 2, 2. 2, 2, 2. I have a tutu on stream. 1, 2.
How colorful is it?
It's gray and white.
That's a boring tutu.
That's actually one of the things I had to come to terms with my recovery, was the idea that while symptoms may lessen, that doesn't mean they're going to go away. And while my coping can happen and can help, it doesn't mean it's going to go away.
Fundamental shifts in what makes you.
Oh yeah, getting used to the new norm.
Yeah. Realizing
that what you once were is not necessarily who you are now, and that's not a bad thing. It just means you're different now. Yeah.
Learning new approaches to.
It's the concept behind being triggered. There are ways that you can avoid being triggered. You can set yourself up for success, but avoidance isn't necessarily the answer. One of the things you have to learn is how to cope once it hits. And that's something that I think as a result of the medicine I was taking, I was doing more avoidance than I was coping. So that was one of the risks of going off the medicine that I was on. The benefit of getting my creativity back was that I was most likely going to face moments where I got overwhelmed emotionally by things. And we got the dog to help in those moments, but if he's never exposed to it, he'll never be able to help me. Does that make sense?
Yep.
As much as I didn't want to experience the moment, there are times when I have to. And I had a moment yesterday where I felt momentarily overwhelmed, and he did respond. He did come to me to see what was going on. I've sneezed suddenly in places, and he's jumped up from where he was and put his head in my lap to make sure I was okay. So he's getting it. And reactions can come at any time. I'm glad that we were able to. Create an environment where you felt like you could talk, but I'm also glad that you were able to bring yourself back to center. Because we definitely don't want to trigger and then leave you hanging. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like the times where that happens to one of us while we're on the stream, because it does. Afterwards, we do kind of some self-check on each other. So after stream, it's like, how are you doing?
Well, it's kind of part of the thing. You're going into this, and that difficult things are going to be talked about, and we just kind of have to include in our schedule. We'll need to make sure we'd have to do a self-check afterwards. Yeah, they often don't announce themselves. I was watching a movie that I knew the ending to, and I got so triggered I got so overwhelmed by the emotions that I was feeling that I had a full-on event. I felt overwhelmingly cold. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't breathe right, and I was away. I was alone, so my wife had to call me and walk me through bringing myself back to center. And we've talked about this before on the stream. One of the things we like to make sure gets talked about here is how people who don't necessarily have the struggle, but they have somebody else in their life. Yeah, exactly. They have, but I mean, also for people who don't. I mean, it's good information for them to have too, because what if you're out and about and you notice someone has triggered? I told the story of the nurse that tried to help me in Kroger back in February. She did everything that she knew to help, but what she didn't realize was that in the process of trying to help, she was actually making it worse.
Yeah, sometimes just that moment of isolation is...
Yeah. But her helping pushed me to get up and get out of there.
Oh.
So in a way, it did help.
Okay.
You know, it's. I didn't like the reaction, and honestly, it was more the reaction. I didn't like the attention, but I was getting the attention one way or the other because I was collapsed on the floor in a grocery store with a 12-year-old and a dog going bonkers. The 12-year-old doing her best to try to shield people away from me, and everyone just couldn't help but stare. So when the nurse came, I remember hearing her say, she was telling every people, just keep moving, give them space.
Okay.
So I did appreciate that part, and it did help me feel more comfortable about getting up and leaving. I eventually made it back into the store, but my daughter served as the anchor because the dog clearly wasn't going to be able to do it. Jen, spam away. We'll do our best to keep up. Let's see. I need to move this. For those of you who are wondering, the box that you see up in the top right is the guide for making the sphere to make sure we get it exactly right.
And that's actually the same as all of these white lines back and forth. It's for measuring, and they'll eventually be gone.
Yeah. Okay, so go back to here. So 4, 3, 2, 3. 4, 3, 2, 3. Keep it right there.
Trained to be a nurse, we have to wear backs. Train our... Oh, interesting. Okay. Have to train the backs so you don't put too much strain on them. Yeah.
2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then it's a double 1 and then a 2. Okay, so here's where I'll have to start correcting. Are you reading what she's saying?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm just going to keep focus on this. And all right, it's kind of one of the complicated things about this medium of trying to consume what people are putting into chat while not leaving dead air. And I specifically mean this stream in particular, where we're trying to help people.
Well, and it's that kind of helps with having a game, something else going on as well. So it's not really dead, just depending on whoever wants to focus on what can be there. It sounds like a very unexpected circumstance where you were in the middle of doing something very different than any situation where you would have felt triggered or you would have felt taken off guard. Like there was no way for you to expect. There was no way for you to expect that, and I think that when something happens outside of your safety zone, where you feel comfortable, where you feel safe, where you feel like you're not going to have to face whatever is wrenching you, and then it happens. Well, of course you would just break down. Even if it's something very mild, something very mundane, something very normal, it makes sense to break down because you're suddenly pulled out of that comfort zone back into whatever situation or circumstance your brain decides that represents. It's humiliating. We've talked about our own circumstances that are similar.
It's extremely humiliating. It's extremely humiliating. It's nice that in that particular circumstance you had a group of people that even if they didn't understand, someone in the room knew, And they all understood enough to see the value of what was being offered to you. The group that I have, the community that I have outside of the house that I interact with the most, the group from my church, I will say beyond a shadow of a doubt, most of them probably don't fully understand what it is that's going on, but they have all gotten used to the idea that it's hard for me to speak, that it is very hard for me to speak at volume, and sometimes I will derail, and in a lot of circumstances, they will just assume I'm done and keep going. They'll wait until I actually nod to say I'm done. Even if I didn't finish the thought, they've gotten very good at waiting until I give them some kind of signal to say, okay, I'm done. Even if I can't finish the thought, I'm done. So that's all. It's incredibly valuable for a person who's trying to just be out there.
Sometimes it's we don't like showing people the ramifications of our state of being. They're such a normal part of life for us, but we want to fit in. We want people to feel comfortable around us. So we don't always, well, I should say me. I shouldn't say we. I try to hide and not show people just how bad it can get. If I'm in a really, really bad situation, or if I'm having a really rough time, I don't even leave the house. But I think, for me at least, when those situations have happened in a place where I'm going to be on a regular basis, so work, not so much the grocery store, I think, but in work environments, in friend environments, in school environments, if that comes out and other people see just how bad it can be, it's like so many people step up, and your environment just becomes that much safer because they now see and understand better.
Yeah. I still just very much don't like people looking at me.
Oh, no.
This here is different because I'm at home. I can at any time I could just turn that camera off and you could only hear me. But this is a little bit, and that's why when I did that lesson with that group, I actually did most of it from video because that was what I was comfortable with. But the idea of people looking at me, just in public, just I don't like the attention, and that's part of the catch-22 of having the dog, is people look at me. It definitely draws attention, and it's not what you want.
We don't see you guys, which sounds terrible, but you're right, it helps.
Well, yeah, and then it helps, but they think that if the rules are don't talk to the dog, and they think that means, okay, well, I can talk to the handler. Well, not always. Not always is the handler capable of dealing with you. And it's very presumptuous and selfish of them to assume such things for me. I've had to tell my daughter all the time when she comes and she just starts doing things that overload me sensory-wise, I have to say, stop forcing your sensory experience on me. I don't want it. Yes, you should probably go find something to do that's not this, so you can get your mind off of this, which I know. And yes, I get it. You're looking right at me. This, again, in my room right now, there is nobody around me. Probably part of the reason why the dog is sitting here, I've been training him to stay under the seat, is that when something happens, he will react and I will feel him move.
Ooh, a shower is a really good way to unwind for me.
Oh, that's a very good way. Yeah.
Although, honestly, I could never do this stream right before bed.
Oh, no. No. I wouldn't be doing this at night. There's too many things that can get brought up that just, nope. I have to actually disconnect from a lot of things by a certain time of night. Like projects, I have to stop several hours before bed, or if I don't, I'll keep working on them and I'll get sucked in and I'll stay up way too late and I'll get frustrated because I'm having a harder time working because I'm tired. So I've had to force that on myself of no projects after a certain time of day. Hey Jen, I'm glad it was helpful. It's nice, even this is a very different kind of stream, and I'm very glad that someone's able to get something out of it other than us. That's kind of why we talk about it, is to help other people they're not alone in their recovery, and it just, if they haven't made it as far as they think they should, that's okay, because where you are is where you are, and that's fine. So
you'll notice in both of our value sets, helping others was made it to our last 5, and we've realized that by sharing our own experiences, that helps others.
Yeah, part of the reason why I started doing this was to get Chalice Mike to commit to doing something on a schedule.
It helps.
Yeah. So, he'll tell you. He'll be the first one to tell you that committing to a specific time is difficult. So, okay. Actually, I think at this point we're gonna go ahead and wrap this stream.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm trying to get... I think I need to alt tab out of this, because whatever it is I'm doing is making things happen in Minecraft. Oh, I'm not on this. That's right, I changed scenes. There. I changed what I was looking at so it wasn't reflecting in the thing. Okay. Well, thank you. We're glad we are. And we hope that you don't stay up too late. And maybe, when you get a chance, you'll do that values exercise, and it will help you find, something meaningful that you can focus on. It goes back to those words that I found, that seeking something that's greater than you. A higher power, or something that's bigger than you, greater than you, that'll get you to focus outward instead of inward. Yeah. So, Chalice Mike, thanks for joining in.
Of course.
I know that this is...
Say it like it's a given.
Well, I mean, sometimes you may not be up for it. I mean, how many times have I said I'm not up for this? I don't want to do this, but then I do it because I know I'll feel better after I do it.
Yep.
Not necessarily this stream, but
just
Wednesday nights Levelhead stream. It's fun. I know it's going to be fun, and once I start it, I'm having fun. But until the moment happens that I start it, I don't want to do it. And the extra live stream on Friday, which I finally fixed it, so now there's a command for it. And why did it trigger that? For a split second, something came on and then went away. I think I'm going to have to just remove that entirely until I can find a better way to put it in. But yeah, on Fridays when I stream the Extra Life channel, that's been a goal of mine for a long time, to be on that channel. And I finally accomplished it, and even now, I still this feeling of I don't want to do this until I actually start. And once I hit start and I hear the music, the reason why the music has stayed the same at the beginning of my stream for so long is because that music gets me, and I listen to that before I have to do anything that's going to require a lot of effort from me. I listen to that the opening half of that song just so I can get myself in the mindset. Sometimes I have to listen to it 2 or 3 times. So it works. As much as people may be bored of hearing the same song at the beginning and end, it works for me. And feeling like it won't go away, it's how I leave the house. Yeah, I never want to leave. I never want to go. Whether it's just to go out and walk the dog, or go to the store, or go to a place where I've said I have a safe place that I can go at that church.
Yeah,
I still don't want to do it.
Exercise of leaving feels unsafe.
Yeah, I still don't want to do it.
Scary.
But I know it's better for me to do it, so I make myself do it. So, all right. Well, Chalice Mike, thanks for joining. We'll see you next week.
Of course.
Maybe you'll hang out with me on Wednesday during my Levelhead stream.
I am planning on it.
Cool. Good night, Jen. I hope you get some sleep. Captain Oz, thanks for hanging out. I enjoyed hanging out in your stream earlier. Glad you could come and hang out in mine. Nautilus Knots, Anthropophagic, I thank you guys for joining in earlier. I appreciate it.
Everybody who's lurked, you are always welcome to lurk.
I think
just sitting doesn't matter.
I think this particular stream of the week ends up with a lot more lurkers than even they let me know that I'm aware of, because there's a lot of people that just listen. And I've actually been told by one person that they refuse to come to the chat. They don't come to the channel itself. They'll watch it being hosted because they don't want to be in the chat.
Yep.
And that's fine.
It's a place to hide. hopefully anybody who's been here more than once recognizes, or at least once, recognizes that we value places to hide.
Oh yeah. And I will never, even though I can see a list over there on that other, the machine that has the bot over there.
Never call it a lurker.
I never, often, I only look at it right at the end of stream. That's it.
Yeah.
So, and then generally it's just because I know someone will say, hey, I was there for your stream earlier, but I didn't talk. I'm like, yeah, I know, I saw you. You were lurking. It's fine. But, okay, well, Jealous Mike, I will be right back. I'm not ready to disconnect from the game.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not ready to disconnect from the game, so I'll be back in that in a moment, but I'm going to mute Discord for a bit.
Okie doke.
All right, so again, I will be back Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. That time is kind of the time I'm working for, but I may, if you had to guess my name, age, and job, I'm curious now. What would you say? 39 is the closest guess you got on that. Mechanic, I can fix things. I build my own computers. And when we lived in Germany, and we had a workshop, a car shop that we could go to and do most of our work ourselves, I did all of the work on my car. Some of it I had to learn, but I did all the work on our cars that needed to be done. I missed that actually, because there are things that I need to do on my car that I can't do here because I have no place to do it. So, and Wayne is on the opposite end of the alphabet. But you got close with the age. Just 2 years off. Ace Platinum, welcome in. We're heading out, so thank you for hanging and for popping in. And I will be back on Wednesday at 6:30. That stream I want to be 2 hours, but I kind of have to be after 8 o'clock rolls around. I have to be Johnny on the spot to duck out when the family comes home. So it'll be more level head communities. Clumsy Jeff, I saw you earlier. Hopefully you got a level ready for Wednesday. And then as I shared just a moment ago, Extra Life. You can see the thing up there. I'm a little over 50% of the way to the $1,000 raised mark, and that's the main event is in 2 months, just under 2 months. And on Fridays, I really don't know why that one's triggering that. It's for some reason it's that specific command. That's why I stopped using it. I need to change it to something else. But I stream to the Extra Life for Kids channel at 12 Central. And I'm currently playing through Spyro Reignited in that one, so maybe I'll see some of you there. MS, also, thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you tomorrow during your stream. And, oh, I forgot to do this earlier. Sorry. Captain Oz. And I think you're still here. Yep. And I owe a couple of people these. Sorry guys, I didn't do that earlier. I was kind of distracted with what we were talking about. All good streamers, all great people to hang out with. You'll enjoy them. They stream at different times of day. So you can actually, I think those three, if you were just to try to watch those three, you could watch all three without them overlapping each other. So that works out for them. So we'll see you guys Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.